They called American chocolate pale, lifeless, and barely worth unwrapping. But what happens when the joke stops at the first bite? What if the flavor they dismiss carries more warmth, memory, and character than the headlines ever admitted? During the 2026 World Cup, visitors came expecting America to disappoint them. Instead, one small piece of chocolate began exposing a much bigger mistake. Chocolate's American surprise. American chocolate walks into the argument wearing a simple wrapper, and somehow half of Europe has already decided what it tastes like before the first square is even broken off. Too pale, too sweet, too plain, they say. Then the tasting begins and the confidence starts melting faster than a chocolate bar left on the dashboard in July.
And when people come to America, they notice just how high quality the chocolate is. And I'm actually pretty proud of that because high quality chocolate means a lot to a lot of people in the world.
That reaction says less about the chocolate than it does about the picture of America many visitors arrive carrying. Across European television, newspapers, and social media, the United States is often reduced to oversized portions, processed food, and brightly colored snacks that supposedly value spectacle over flavor. During the 2026 World Cup, however, travelers who spent real time in American cities encountered something far more interesting than that familiar headline. They found a food culture that is playful, generous, deeply nostalgic, and far more varied than the airport candy aisle ever suggested. Chocolate reveals that difference immediately because Europe and America expect different things from the same bite. In Brussels, chocolate is closely associated with polished pralines and elegant gift boxes. In Zurich, smooth milk chocolate carries the confidence of a national specialty. Parisian shops often present dark bars with the seriousness of a carefully chosen bottle of wine. American chocolate enters through another door. It belongs in Halloween buckets, baseball stadiums, movie theaters, road trip bags, school fundraisers, and kitchen drawers where one bar somehow survives until somebody has a difficult Tuesday. That everyday role gives it a personality Europeans may not recognize at first. A classic American milk chocolate bar can taste sweeter and tangier than many continental varieties, while peanut butter cups introduce salt, roasted peanuts, and a slightly crumbly texture that changes the entire experience. This is not chocolate trying to imitate Belgium or Switzerland. It is chocolate behaving like America, informal, inventive, easy to share, and perfectly comfortable combining two familiar pleasures without requesting permission from a culinary committee. The real surprise comes when visitors discover that American chocolate does not stop at supermarket candy. Cities such as San Francisco have long chocolate-making traditions, while specialty shops across the country offer dark bars, filled chocolates, small batch creations, and regional flavors with careful attention to cacao and texture. Judging all of American chocolate by one mass-market bar would be like judging Italian food by a packet of crackers bought beside a train platform in Rome. It tells you something, but nowhere near enough. And perhaps that is why the first skeptical bite becomes so entertaining. The criticism begins with the confidence of a courtroom verdict, yet the hand quietly returns for another piece. Nobody announces a surrender. Nobody needs to. The empty wrapper handles the paperwork. By then, American food has already made its larger point. It does not need to copy European tradition to deserve affection. It has its own memories, combinations, rituals, and sense of fun. One small piece of chocolate can carry a movie night, a childhood holiday, a long drive, or a warm welcome from someone who simply says, "Try this." For visitors expecting something pale and lifeless, that first taste can feel like discovering that the America described from afar was only the trailer, while the full movie is warmer, richer, and much harder to leave behind. America's cheesy secret mac and cheese has a strange talent. It can look like the least ambitious dish in the room, then quietly become the one everybody keeps thinking about afterward. A bowl of soft pasta coated in orange cheese sauce does not arrive with the polished confidence of French cuisine or the careful presentation of an Italian trattoria. It looks comfortable, familiar, almost suspiciously easy. Then the spoon goes back in and suddenly nobody is discussing presentation anymore.
Oh my god, it's so good! I'm pretty sure this is a special. This is top 5 mac and cheese in Boston.
If you are in Seattle and you are a mac and cheese connoisseur boy like me, this is insane. I'm not even kidding.
That is where American food culture begins to surprise European visitors. In Paris, cheese may appear at the end of a meal on a carefully arranged board, with each variety given enough personal space to qualify for its own zip code. In Bologna, pasta is usually tied to regional rules, traditional sauces, and strong opinions passed down through generations. Britain has its own comforting baked dishes, including cauliflower cheese and pasta bakes, but American mac and cheese turns comfort into the main event. It does not politely accompany dinner. It sits in the center of the table wearing the culinary equivalent of sweatpants, and somehow becomes the most popular guest. The appeal comes from one very specific contrast. The pasta is soft, while the sauce is rich, salty, and almost impossibly smooth. Add a browned crust, breadcrumbs, or a sharper cheese, and every spoonful carries two textures at once. The top crackles gently while the middle stays creamy enough to move like warm lava, although thankfully with fewer insurance claims. That combination keeps the palate interested because the dish constantly shifts between mild pasta, salt, fat, and toasted edges. America's relationship with cheese helps explain why this works so well. According to long-running USDA food supply data, Americans consume roughly 40 pounds of cheese per person in a typical recent year, far more than they did several decades ago. That number includes everything from pizza mozzarella to cheddar, but it also shows how deeply cheese has settled into everyday American eating. It is no longer reserved for a formal course or special occasion. Cheese appears at family dinners, school cafeterias, holiday tables, neighborhood cookouts, and late-night kitchens where somebody is operating a saucepan with the confidence of a television chef and the preparation of a raccoon. Mac and cheese also reveals something generous about the American idea of hospitality. The dish is easy to scale up, easy to share, and forgiving enough for families to make it their own. One household may use sharp cheddar and bake it until the corners turn crisp. Another may prefer a silky stovetop version. In the South, richer baked recipes often appear beside holiday meals, carrying family histories that cannot be measured with a kitchen scale. That flexibility is precisely why the dish becomes so easy to love. European food traditions often protect identity through rules, while American comfort food frequently protects memory through variation. The recipe changes, yet the feeling remains familiar. Visitors may first see a bright bowl of pasta and assume America has simplified dinner too far. A few spoonfuls later, they begin to understand that simplicity was never the weakness. It was the invitation. Mac and cheese asks almost nothing from the person eating it, except that they relax, take another bite, and stop pretending the crispy corner was not obviously theirs. Breakfast breaks. Curfew somewhere in America, a plate of pancakes is being served at 9:47 p.m., and nobody in the diner considers this unusual. That single detail can rearrange a European visitor's understanding of breakfast more effectively than any travel brochure ever could. In much of Europe, the first meal of the day keeps fairly disciplined office hours. Paris may offer a croissant with coffee, Madrid has toast rubbed with tomato, while many German breakfasts lean toward bread, cheese, cold cuts, and boiled eggs. Once morning passes, those foods generally clock out. American breakfast ignores the clock completely. This is the country where eggs, pancakes, hash browns, and syrup can appear before sunrise, after a football game, or during a late-night drive when every sensible kitchen has already turned off its lights. The all-day diner does more than extend serving hours. It turns breakfast into a mood rather than a timetable, which is why it feels so welcoming to people arriving from places where lunch and dinner follow clearer boundaries. The appeal is built around freedom of choice. A guest can order something sweet, something salty, or both on the same plate without needing to defend the decision before a culinary court. Pancakes may sit beside bacon, while maple syrup quietly crosses the border and reaches everything nearby. The first accidental drop on a strip of bacon can look like a diplomatic incident. The second is usually deliberate. That sweet and savory contrast explains much of the craving. Salt makes sweetness feel brighter, fat carries aroma, and the soft pancake gives the crisp bacon somewhere comfortable to land. American breakfast understands that pleasure does not always need separate plates and formal introductions. Sometimes the flavors should meet immediately and sort out the paperwork later. Its scale also reflects a broader American habit of feeding people generously. According to USDA food supply estimates, the United States has produced enough eggs in recent years to provide roughly 280 eggs per person annually. Naturally, those eggs are used in countless dishes, but the figure helps explain why breakfast feels less like a delicate morning ritual and more like one of the country's dependable food languages. Eggs are scrambled, fried, folded into omelets, stacked into sandwiches, or placed beside potatoes that have been crisped until they resemble tiny golden roof shingles. The cultural difference becomes especially clear in cities. In Paris, finding a full American-style breakfast late at night may require a specialized restaurant. In New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles, a diner can serve it with the calm routine of a post office handling mail. Nobody raises an eyebrow because breakfast has already been freed from morning. That flexibility is deeply American. The meal welcomes night shift workers, families on road trips, college students keeping questionable hours, and travelers whose body clocks have given up negotiating with the time zone. It offers warmth without ceremony and familiarity without demanding that everyone share the same schedule. European visitors may arrive expecting American food to be loud, excessive, or created mainly for photographs. Then a diner places a hot plate in front of them, refills the coffee, and allows pancakes to exist after dark without explanation. Suddenly, America feels less like a country performing for outsiders, and more like a place making room for whoever walks through the door. That may be the real reason the diner breakfast becomes difficult to forget. It is generous, slightly rebellious, and available when people actually need it. In America, morning is no longer a time on the clock. It is something warm waiting under a silver cover, ready whenever you finally sit down. Ranch takes over. A European visitor can spend 20 years believing salad dressing belongs quietly beside lettuce, then arrive in America and discover ranch behaving like it owns the building. It appears with chicken wings, pizza crusts, fries, vegetables, sandwiches, and occasionally foods that seemed perfectly capable of managing on their own. By the time World Cup travelers settle into American restaurants, one question often replaces all the careful theories they brought from home. Why does this pale little sauce keep making everything disappear? The answer begins with contrast. Ranch combines creamy fat, salt, acidity, garlic, onion, and herbs in proportions that seem almost suspiciously well organized. The cool texture calms hot food, while the tang keeps fried dishes from feeling too heavy. Garlic and herbs add enough flavor to make a plain carrot feel as though it has finally been invited somewhere important. Each element fixes a problem created by another, which is why the next dip rarely feels unnecessary. That balance helps explain its remarkable popularity. In consumer surveys conducted over many years, ranch has repeatedly ranked as America's favorite salad dressing, often leading its nearest competitors by a wide margin. Yet calling it merely a salad dressing is like describing a pickup truck as a device for carrying groceries. Technically correct, but missing most of the story. The cultural surprise becomes clearer when ranch is placed beside European habits. In Lion, a salad may rely on a sharp mustard vinaigrette that cuts cleanly through bitter greens. Greek tables commonly use olive oil, lemon, and herbs without hiding the ingredients beneath a thick sauce. In Italy, asking for ranch beside pizza would draw the kind of pause normally reserved for someone requesting ketchup with a family heirloom. Those traditions value clarity, allowing each ingredient to keep its own voice. America takes a more social approach. Ranch behaves like the friendly neighbor who arrives with folding chairs and somehow improves the entire gathering. It connects foods that would otherwise sit in separate corners of the plate. A hot wing becomes cooler and richer. A celery stick loses its reputation as homework. A pizza crust, previously treated as the handle, suddenly earns an encore. This flexibility reflects something larger about American eating. The country has always been comfortable adapting food to fit the person, rather than asking the person to respect a fixed set of rules. Sauces are offered freely, combinations are encouraged, and nobody needs a passport stamped by tradition before dipping a French fry into whatever tastes good. That freedom can look casual from the outside, yet it creates an unusually welcoming dining culture. Visitors are not expected to understand every custom before joining in. Someone slides over a cup of ranch, offers a quick nod, and the lesson is complete. There is no ceremony, only a practical form of hospitality measured in ounces. Perhaps that is why the sauce becomes so memorable. Ranch does not demand admiration or arrive with a speech about authenticity. It simply makes familiar food more playful, then waits for the second dip. European travelers may come to America expecting meals built mainly around excess because that image travels well through headlines and social media. What they encounter instead is a culture skilled at turning eating into participation. Ranch may look modest, but its real flavor is permission. Mix the plate, ignore the rule book, and enjoy dinner without asking whether somebody in Rome would approve. Deli defies gravity. At first glance, an American deli sandwich appears to have been assembled by someone who regarded bread as a polite suggestion rather than a structural limit. The filling rises several inches above the plate, the pickle waits beside it like emergency equipment, and the first practical question is no longer about flavor. It is about whether the human jaw has been properly ensured. That towering shape reveals one of the most attractive ideas in American food culture. Generosity should be visible before the first bite. A classic New York pastrami sandwich does not hide its intentions beneath decorative leaves or a careful drizzle of sauce. The meat is stacked high, warm enough to release its peppery aroma, with mustard cutting through the richness and rye bread doing its best impression of load-bearing architecture. Europe has several brilliant sandwich traditions, but they often follow a different philosophy. A Parisian jambon beurre places ham and butter inside a crisp baguette with elegant restraint. Copenhagen's smørrebrød turns an open-faced sandwich into a carefully composed picture, where every topping seems to know exactly where it belongs. In London, the supermarket meal deal sandwich is compact enough to eat between train connections without requiring a spotter. The American deli sandwich treats lunch as a full commitment. Its appeal comes from the way abundance changes the eating experience. Thin slices of meat fold over one another, trapping warmth and moisture between the layers. Mustard brings acidity, rye adds a slightly earthy bite, and the pickle resets the palate with enough sharpness to wake up anyone still recovering from jet lag. The sandwich keeps alternating between rich, sour, salty, and spicy, which prevents the meat from becoming monotonous, even when the portion looks capable of feeding a small committee. This style has deep roots in American immigrant history. New York's Jewish delicatessens developed from Central and Eastern European food traditions, then adapted to the scale, pace, and appetite of the city. Katz's Delicatessen has operated since 1888, surviving changing neighborhoods, food trends, and generations of customers who apparently agreed that sandwiches should require two hands and a sensible strategy. That history matters because the American version is neither a careless imitation nor a random exercise in excess. It is an immigrant food that found new confidence. Techniques crossed the Atlantic, met American abundance, and became something unmistakably local. The result carries European memory while speaking with a New York accent loud enough to be heard over traffic. During the World Cup, that kind of meal can challenge the pictures some visitors bring from overseas. American portions are often discussed as though size alone were the joke. Yet inside a good deli, the generous serving feels less like showing off and more like an old promise between the restaurant and the customer. Nobody should leave wondering whether lunch actually happened. There's also something wonderfully democratic about it. The sandwich arrives on paper, perhaps with a handful of chips, and asks for no special knowledge. You do not need to understand a tasting menu, recognize a rare ingredient, or pronounce anything with confidence. You simply lean forward, hold the layers together, and accept that dignity may need to sit this meal out. By the final bite, the sandwich has made a larger point about America. This country knows how to take an inherited tradition, give it room to grow, and serve it back with warmth, humor, and enough pastrami to block the skyline. What looked excessive from a distance begins to feel like hospitality measured in layers. Crunch has layers. The first sound matters more than the first word. A piece of American fried chicken is lifted, the crust cracks beneath the teeth, and every confident opinion formed from overseas television suddenly has to compete with a noise resembling dry leaves under a pair of boots. That crunch is not decoration, it is the entire argument. Fried chicken exists across Europe, of course, but it rarely carries the same cultural weight. Vienna has schnitzel, where a thin cutlet wears a delicate coat of breadcrumbs. Britain has long-loved battered fish built around a crisp shell protecting soft white flesh. In America, however, fried chicken developed into something more muscular. The coating forms ridges, bubbles, flakes, and rough golden corners, creating a surface with more geography than a road map of Tennessee. That irregular crust explains why the dish becomes so difficult to put down. Smooth food gives the mouth one sensation at a time, while properly fried chicken changes with every bite. One section shatters loudly, another bends slightly, and a darker edge carries a deeper, toasted flavor. Underneath, the meat remains juicy because the coating slows moisture loss during cooking. The pleasure comes from the constant switch between dry crunch and tender meat, with salt and seasoning reaching the tongue in small waves instead of arriving all at once. Americans have clearly made room for this bird. According to the National Chicken Council, per-person chicken consumption in the United States surpassed 100 pounds annually in recent years, far above the roughly 28 pounds recorded in 1960. That figure covers every kind of chicken, yet it also reveals how completely the meat has become part of daily American eating. It can be a family dinner, a road trip stop, a game day order, or the meal somebody carries home in a paper box that perfumes the entire car before the first traffic light. Regional style adds another layer of fascination. Southern fried chicken often relies on seasoned flour and careful frying, while Nashville hot chicken covers that crust with a fiery spice mixture. The heat does not simply sit on top like an alarm nobody requested. It mixes with the fat, salt, and crisp coating, making the next bite feel necessary, even while the previous one is still negotiating with the lips. Pickles often arrive beside it because their cold acidity cuts through the richness, acting like tiny green referees trying to restore order. This is where the American genius becomes obvious. Instead of treating texture as an afterthought, the dish turns texture into entertainment. A European visitor may recognize chicken, flour, oil, and seasoning individually, yet the American arrangement produces an experience larger than the ingredient list. It resembles a garage band made from familiar instruments that somehow ends up selling out an arena. The wider lesson reaches beyond the plate. Foreign coverage often presents American food as careless excess, but good fried chicken depends on control. Oil temperature, seasoning, resting time, coating thickness, and the moment each piece leaves the fryer. Too cool and the crust becomes heavy. Too hot and the outside races ahead while the meat falls behind. That golden shell is less a lucky accident than a small engineering project served with napkins. By the time World Cup visitors have spent several weeks eating across American cities, fried chicken can become one of those foods they unexpectedly miss before the flight home. The craving is not created by size or spectacle. It begins with a sound, continues through carefully built contrast, and ends with somebody inspecting the box for one final piece they were certain had already disappeared. The refill miracle. A European traveler orders one soda in an American restaurant, drinks half of it, and looks away for a moment. When the glass returns to their attention, it is full again. No second order was placed, no new bill appeared, and no waiter delivered a formal announcement. The drink simply seems to have repaired itself, like a kitchen appliance covered by an unusually generous warranty. Free refills may appear to be a small restaurant habit, yet they reveal something important about American hospitality. In many cafes and casual restaurants across Paris, Amsterdam, or Berlin, a soft drink commonly arrives in a 330 milliliter bottle, and another drink means another charge. That system is perfectly normal, especially where meals are built around smaller servings and longer conversations. An American fountain cup, however, often holds between 16 and 24 fluid ounces, roughly 473 to 710 milliliters, before anyone even considers bringing it back to life. The attraction is not simply the amount of soda. It is the feeling that the restaurant has stopped counting every sip. That detail changes the atmosphere of a meal. Guests linger without calculating whether another drink is worth the price. Parents do not need to negotiate every empty cup, and travelers escaping a summer afternoon can recover from the heat without treating hydration like a subscription service. During the 2026 World Cup, when visitors move between stadiums, fan zones, airports, and long city walks, that small act of abundance can feel remarkably personal. American restaurants understand that generosity is often most convincing when nobody makes a ceremony out of it. The server notices the glass, tops it up, and continues walking with the calm efficiency of someone refueling a NASCAR car during a pit stop. The customer does not have to raise a hand, study the menu again, or wonder whether the next 3 inches of cola require financial approval. There's also a clever business idea underneath the friendliness. Fountain beverages cost restaurants far less per serving than their menu price, which makes refills inexpensive to provide while creating a strong sense of value. The restaurant spends a little more syrup, water, and ice. The guest leaves remembering that nobody guarded the soda machine like it contained classified documents. That memory matters because American dining often competes through comfort rather than formality. French cafe culture offers beautiful street-side tables and time to watch the city pass. Italian meals can turn patience into an art form. America contributes another pleasure, the quiet assurance that there will be enough, and asking for more will not make anyone uncomfortable. This custom also explains why visitors sometimes find themselves missing American restaurants after returning home. The craving is not always for a particular burger, sandwich, or dessert. Sometimes they miss the easy rhythm surrounding the meal, the large glass sweating beside the plate, the server appearing before it runs dry, and the wonderfully strange realization that abundance can feel relaxed rather than wasteful. From a distance, foreign media may present American portions as a running joke. At the table, the meaning changes. A free refill feels less like excess and more like the restaurant saying, "Stay comfortable, we have plenty." That message is deeply American, practical, warm, and delivered with enough ice to survive a Texas afternoon. Perhaps the greatest surprise was never the chocolate, the ranch, or the bottomless glass. It was discovering that American food carries something headlines rarely capture: generosity without ceremony, invention without apology, and comfort offered to anyone willing to pull up a chair. Which American flavor would you miss most after flying home? Share your choice in the comments and subscribe to the channel as we keep uncovering the everyday details that make America warmer, richer, and more unforgettable than expected.